So in this video, I'm now going to look at the next activity in your POE, which is activity 4. In the last video, we had a look at activities 1, 2, and 3. Activity 4 says now, in this task, you're required to present several parts and features of the virtual solution. The presentation must be narrated and must demonstrate the creations, configurations, or testing of parts and features as indicated. The presentation should be no longer than 20 minutes. Your lecturer will brief you on how to use PowerPoint to create narrated voice-over presentation and how to save it using the correct format. The first slide of the presentation should contain the following information. The rest of the slides should contain the information as follows. Okay, so now we need to create a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to open up PowerPoint. There's my PowerPoint app. I'm going to create a blank presentation. And they said on the first slide, I need to include, what do I need to include? Your name, surname, student number, your program module and year, a recent picture of yourself, the title of the presentation, right? So lots of information is required here. So title of the presentation is what? This is NWAR POE, and this is activity 4. In the subtitle, I'm going to include my name, surname, student number. So name, surname, student number, program module year. So HSU 1, group 1, year 2022. So they said program, module, and year. HSU NWAR 5122, group 1, and then the year. Then they said a recent picture of yourself. So go and insert a picture. Insert picture. Let's see if I've got a picture of myself. Right. So there's a picture of myself. I'm then going to insert the picture and place it accordingly. Title of the presentation, right? NWAR POE Activity 4 is the title of the presentation. All right, so I can see on the right-hand side, it's giving me some slide designs. So maybe I want to select something that looks a bit better. Okay, so you can do something like that. Then new slide. What's the next slide? Introduction. So in the first slide, it's got your name, title of the presentation. I've done that. Next slide is the introduction. State what the presentation is about. A list of what will be presented is recommended. Provide a brief description of the network and the virtual section. So here I'm going to say this is introduction. And then I'm going to start including what the rest of the slides are all about. So I'm going to come back and finish this one. So I'm going to go new slide again. Content of the presentation. It says here, overview of the installed server machine, overview of the domain, showing the domain Active Directory structure and its contents, and overview of the installed client machine. All right. So present the following: installed server machine, So I'm going to now, this is installed server machine. Then I'll create a new slide. Next one says domain showing Active Directory structure. So I'm going to say Active Directory structure, Active Directory structure, and then new slide, overview of the installed client. So client machine. Content of the presentation, present the parts or features, log in with Dimakatsu Sizwe account on any of the account may be used, and verify if Dimakatsu can access the W drive, right? So here, I will continue now, content of the presentation. Okay. So each of these will need to be a different slide, okay? Access W drive, create a folder called assessments to ensure proper permissions have been set. Okay, so first one is access to W drive. So I'm going to create new slide, and then I'm going to say access to W drive. And then similarly, I'm going to then create for each of these tasks, assessments, permissions on assessments. So assessment folder permission, and then I'll continue, right? The next one says create exam.txt file, exam1.txt file. Sees where you can see and access the shared folder. So the next one would be shared folder access. And then I keep creating new slides for each of them. Shared folder access. Next one is copy the TXT account from the shared folder to CSW's home directory in the folder called assessments. Okay, so copy of TXT. The next one is log on to server. This one we're going to call disabled account. And then the last one, is it the last one? HC? No, not last one. G is add the test4 txt file to the shared folder and encrypt the file. Encrypted file. Encrypted file. The new slide. Add the test to the shared folder and encrypt the file. That's what we just did. Change the shared folder permission to one of to modify permission. So this is share permissions. Configure one user account to enforce change of password in the next login session. Change password. Okay, so now if you have the screenshots from your part 2, you can use the screenshots from part 2. Some of these I see we need to take additional screenshots, right? So you would need to then create additional screenshots, okay? So I'm going to open up my Hyper-V. And I've got my server machine that's saved here. I'm going to start it and connect to it. And let me just go back now and see what screenshots are required. Let's see if I've finished with this. Yeah. Then conclusion. Briefly say something about your experience creating and developing the virtual machine solution. So the last slide is going to be conclusion. New slide, conclusion. So I'm going to go back now and look at the screenshots that's required here. Introduction. You're going to fill in that introduction. Installed server machine. So first screenshot needs to show that Active Directory or your server machine has been installed. So here I've got my system properties. I'm going to take a screenshot of my system properties. So I'm going to open up my snipping tool. And I'm going to take a new snip. There's my server 2016 that has been installed with my name and my domain. So that's the first screenshot that I'm going to take and put it into my installed server machine. Right. Next screenshot. Active Directory structure. Now, I go back into my server machine and I'm looking for Active Directory users and computers. So there's my Active Directory users and computers. If I don't have it already opened like I have, then I will go to Tools and then I select Active Directory users and computers from Server Manager. So since I've got Active Directory that's installed, now remember in your example, you have created a structure here with different organizational units and different groups. So you will expand whatever it is that you have got, right? And then you will take a picture of your Active Directory structure. So whatever you have set up for your assignment, if you've already got it in your assignment, so let me see if I've got it in my assignment. So if I go back now, and if I look at my assignment document, where's my assignment document? Part 2, let me look for part 2 guidelines. Right, there's part 2, there's part 1 guidelines. I'm going to open part 2 guidelines. Part 1 guidelines. I'm looking now for part 2. So there's my part 2 guidelines that has all of my screenshots. So there's the screenshot that shows the server that has been installed, right? There's it there. So I could have taken it from there. And then there's my users. And then this is DNS. This is DNS, DHCP, activity 2. Okay, so it's not really showing me the Active Directory structure. Oh, there's it here. There's the diagram here. Okay, there's my structure that I created. So I can copy the screenshot here and I can go and put it into my presentation. Active Directory structure, I can just paste it in there. There's the structure that I supposed to have created. Then the client machine is installed. Do I have a picture of my client machine being installed? Let me see in my assignment. Is it question 2? There's it there, Windows 10. Right? There's it here, Windows 10. So I can copy this one, and I can go back. Client machine is installed, and I put in the client machine. Access to the W drive. I've got it in my assignment somewhere. Let me go and see where's the access to the W drive. I think it was activity 5. Yes. Right, there's access to the W drive here. So I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to put it in. Assessment folder permissions. So I did set permissions before. There's permissions here, right? So I'm going to take this screenshot and put it under the permissions here. And then similarly, I'm going to continue my exam text document that was created. Where did I create that? Let's just see. In the shared folder, so it's coming later. Okay. Right, there's my text document that was created here. And I continue in this way, putting in the different screenshots for the rest of the activities. Right, so when I'm done, I would now need to start narrating. Okay, so how do you record? So if you go back here and we look at now other things to add, you can add slide transitions, for example. So transitions, you can, for example, make it fade in, and you can apply to all slides, right? So that if you play your presentation, it's going to now, let's go to slideshow. If I play my presentation, it will then fade in. Okay, so we can use that. Then I've got recording here, right? I can record from beginning, I can record from current slide, and then I can save as a show. So what I would do now is I will start my presentation, and then I'll start recording, and then I'll narrate what I am doing. Okay, so this is how you're going to now start recording. From beginning, the audio will be recorded as you create your presentation. So if I go to the record slide, and let's get started. It tells me what is going to be happening here, right? There's the record button, there's the turn camera on, so I can have a picture of itself being presented, right? And then you can see you can turn your microphone on and off, all right? So I'm going to now click on the record, and then I'm going to start narrating my presentation. So it counts me in, and then I say, hi, I'm Suben, and I'll be presenting my Network Architecture POE Activity 4 presentation today. I am part of the HSU 1 Group 1, and this is the Network Architecture 5122 module. Then I'll go on to my next slide, and I'll say, in this presentation, we cover the introduction of the server, the installation of the client, and all of the points that you put on your introduction slide. Then you would go on to the next slide, and you will say, in this slide, we see a server machine that has been installed. This is showing me my server 2016 machine that has been installed, and I named it Suben Server 2016. You can also see that my domain is called suben.n.com. And then similarly, I will page through the rest of the presentation, recording the presentation. So I say here, this shows me my Active Directory structure. In my suben.n.com domain, I was required to create an organizational unit for students, and within that organizational units, I created business, technology, design, and groups. This is my Active Directory structure. And then I continue narrating now, or telling the story about what is happening in each of these slides. Okay, explaining the slides. This slide shows my Windows 10 client machine that was installed. I connected my client machine to my domain, to my server computer, and you continue. Once you have done, you press stop here, and then you can export your presentation, right? So it says the video resolution, and then you can export the file name activity 4. It says resolution is full HD. So where do you want to save it to? I'm going to save it into my network architecture folder on my, yeah, there's my POE document. So it's NWAR POE activity 4. All right, so I'm going to export it there. You can exit this window and you'll be notified when the video has been exported. Now you can obviously customize this as well, so the resolution, etc. But that's the basic procedure that you're going to use to record the video. So I'm just going to wait for this to export. So you can see it's exporting it to an MP4 file, right, which is a video file. So that now completes your activity 4. In the next video, I'll speak about activity 5.